Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from that tour. I would now like to introduce the chair of our opening session, Mr. Joe Ageo. Mr. Ageo is the editorial director of Royal Media Services Limited, based here in Nairobi, Kenya, and he's a very well-rounded journalist with a keen interest in science and environmental journalism. Please welcome with me, Mr. Joe Ageo.
All right, thank you very much, Shira, and welcome to everybody for this second Eastern Africa Bioeconomy Conference. As you recall, this is the second in a series that will be going on for many years because of this emerging area of conversation. And this forum, which is billed as the largest of Africa's largest convening, I should say, on bioeconomy, and it will bring together government officials, scientists, entrepreneurs, investors, civil society actors, many of them joining us virtually this morning, but with a limited in-person participation here at ISIPE. And as you probably know by now, the theme that we are working with is building a sustainable and resilient African economy. And I am going to start this session with a quote that attracted me from the Director General of ISIPE, Dr. Segenet Kelemu, who said in the run-up to this forum that the forthcoming forum takes place against the backdrop of a continent that, alongside the rest of the world, aims to deal with an ever-growing array of existing and emerging challenges, like reducing carbon emissions and to accelerate achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, while envisioning a transformative recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, end quote. So you can see the centrality and the timeliness of this meeting. And I will not belabor the theme because there are people who are better qualified to do that. And in the next few minutes, I will be introducing a panel that will be joining me up here to talk about some of these things in greater detail. But at the moment, allow me to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, up here, the gentleman who is going to welcome us to this campus, and this is none other than Dr. Sunday Ekesi, who is representing the Director General of ISIPE, but he is the Director of Research and Partnerships also here at ISIPE. Please welcome Dr. Ekesi.
Thank you very much, Joe, and all the participants. As rightly mentioned, I'm not the Director General, and I'll be giving a speech on her behalf. But before then, she sincerely sent her apologies. She really wished that she was here with us, celebrating this massive event. But due to some family issues, she's unfortunately unable to attend, but she's with us in her spirit. Honorable Christophe Zivamo, Deputy Secretary General of the East Africa Community, representing the Secretary General of the EAC. Your Excellency, Ambassador Caroline Vicini, Embassy of Sweden in Kenya, Professor Dr. Christine Lang, co-chair of the International Advisory Committee on the Global Bioeconomy, fellow scientists, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you on behalf of ISIPE to the second Eastern Africa Bioeconomy Conference. That is to you who are here on campus with us and you who are joining us virtually. You are very much welcome. Our conference team, which is right over there, is building a sustainable and resilient African bioeconomy. For some of you who were in the first bioeconomy conference here in October last year, you will all recall that our team was Bioeconomy Growth Prospect of Eastern Africa. You will see from this current team that there is clearly an expansion to Africa, which is something that we are really proud of. This team resonates with ICIPE's mission, which is to help alleviate poverty, ensure food security, and improve the overall health status of peoples of the tropics by developing and extending management tools and strategies for harmful arthropods, as well as useful ones, while preserving the natural resource base through research and capacity building. We have witnessed in the last few months an important conversation about achieving net zero carbon emission by 2050 if we are to avoid the catastrophic global warming. I think all of you here, including the scientists and the policymakers, clearly deserve a pat at the back because our voices as scientists is clearly being heard at the moment. And this is something that we are all extremely proud of. Several countries have made pledges at the ongoing COP26 in Glasgow to reduce their greenhouse gas emission and adopt more ecological production and consumption practices. This ongoing climate dialogue presents opportunities for increasing our efforts to conserve biodiversity, develop eco-friendly, low-carbon solutions, and build resilient food and healthcare systems. ICIPE is intensifying R&D on bio and nature-based solutions, such as beneficial insects for food and feed, and ecosystem services, microbiomes. These are very, very important biodiversity resources for us, and management of invasive pests, among others, as part of the bioeconomy. For example, you're probably aware that ICIPE was awarded $1 million by Kurt Bedford's Foundation for Food Planet Prize 2020 for our pioneering work and R&D on insect for food and feed and other uses. The center shared the prize with Synergy, a Kenya and US-based organization. So food systems will contribute about 25% of global greenhouse gas emission, but they can be made more sustainable by integrating insects with a lower carbon footprint. Indeed, we think that insects should leave a lighter footprint on the environment compared to traditional livestock production, for instance. I'm sure that most of you are probably aware that to produce 1 kg of insect protein, you only need 2 kilograms of feed. To produce 1 kg of beef protein, you require about 25 kilograms of feed. Okay? To produce the same amount, 1 kg of insects, you only need less than 1 liter of water. To produce 1 kg of beef protein, you require 22,000 liters of water. The example is apparent. The difference is apparent. The world at the moment produces around 2 billion tons of waste annually. Only 33% of that is managed efficiently. Come on, we have insects that can convert this waste into an organic fertilizer that fits into agriculture, and then the insects become a protein source for us to use as food and feed. This is clearly an example of a circular economy instead of the current unidirectional bioeconomy that we have become too familiar with. Okay? So there is clearly an opportunity for us to tap into here. And for some of you that probably don't like insects too much, you should know that 65 to 70% of all human diseases are of animal origin. The diseases that attack insects do not affect humans, so you can eat these freely without too much issues. Okay? So there is everything that we need in insects that can contribute to our food systems. Recently, we have been carrying out some groundbreaking work on the use of microbiome to control malaria. I'm sure all of you are aware of the burden of malaria to the African continent. So we need to find alternative solutions. And we have been able to find a microsporidia that can block malaria transmission. These are all biological resources that we can tap into. You are all aware of the massive problem of fall armyworm that we have at the moment, causing between 8 and 20 million tons of yield loss in maize. We are producing natural enemies, which are powerful ecosystem services that can be utilized to minimize this problem. Therefore, this conference is an opportunity to reflect on the ongoing climate talks and how sustainable Africa bioeconomy can contribute to realizing net zero carbon emission by the middle of the century and the immediate UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030. ICIPE, through Bioinnovate, will continue supporting efforts aimed at building sustainable African bioeconomy, enabling scientists to translate biologically based solutions or nature-based solutions and inventions into practical use in society. And this makes Bioinnovate Africa a valued regional science and innovation-driven initiative that fulfill or is filling critical gap in innovation ecosystem and fostering sustainable African bioeconomy. I thank our partners, the East Africa community, through the East Africa Commission for Science and Technology, the Becker ILRI Hub, the Stockholm Environment Institute, and several other partners that have contributed to the success of this meeting. Finally, I thank the government of Sweden. We are truly, truly grateful through CEDA for supporting our efforts in developing sustainable and resilient African bioeconomy. You will recall at the first conference that I was the one that gave the closing remark. I'm really privileged to be standing before you to also give an opening speech. I thank you and wish you all fruitful deliberation. Much appreciated.
And Dr. Casey, thank you very much, but I request you to abandon your seat there for a minute and just stay up with me. It's been a bit lonely up here, wouldn't you agree? So thank you very much, Dr. Ekesi, for those inspirational remarks as we begin this session. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, now to bring in Dr. Christine Lang. She's joining us from Germany. Dr. Lang is the co-chair of the International Advisory Committee on Global Bioeconomy. Dr. Lang, I really hope you can hear us loud and clear. Please, the floor is yours now.
Yes, thank you very much. I can hear you loud and clear. And first of all, thank you very much for having me as a speaker in this first panel. This is absolutely great to see this conference at a very important time. And let me first of all just say why this is such important to have these conferences and why bioeconomy is at the moment at a center stage and why we need bioeconomy policies and initiatives. Because we are at a stage in this world where we need to recover from COVID-19, not only the health, but also economics, and the health challenges contributed with that. At the same time, climate is at the center of many policy measures. Urgent action is needed and required. And the question is, why do I mention this? Because bioeconomy needs to be an important part of the measures we take. So we need to promote, communicate bioeconomy as one of the key factors to make life better, and also to answer to challenges of environment and the societal changes in the same way. Now, let me come first to the point why I think that is so important. There are major challenges today, and some of them have already been mentioned, and these require involvement by economy. Let's start with the health issue. It's not just COVID-19 infections. There are a lot of infections, diseases, and we have seen very impressively how biotechnology and biology and biological sciences and biotechnology methods are helping us to solve crises like that and to answer to those crises. The second part I would mention is the part of biodiversity. We need to look at biodiversity in a way that we need to secure biodiversity as one of the main issues in our world and rely on understanding and the knowledge of the biological systems and on finding biology-inspired ways to restore and keep those ecosystems healthy and alive. This includes local and indigenous know-how. So the rich bioresources that especially at the region in East Africa are present need to be used and maintained and preserved in a sustainable way. And this is also part of biology and bioeconomy. Third point would be climate mitigation. It was just mentioned also that we need to look at CO2 reduction. And I am pretty much sure that climate mitigation cannot work without looking at biological measures and without looking at bioeconomy and applying circular thinking rather to the one-directional thinking before. So we have a lot of means to get rid of CO2 and to help reduce CO2 emissions. But we have to look at bioeconomy also for this. And I'm pretty sure that we cannot solve this problem without using bioeconomy principles. And the fourth point, why this is so important to have bioeconomy thinking, is when you think of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. When you look at those, many of those include biological measures to be taken and bioeconomy to get there, and look at bioresources, look at biocircular use of resources. Now, coming to the point when we say now, we realize and recognize that bioeconomy is very important. The next question would be, and I would like to talk to now for the next few minutes, is the question: what is the way forward? What do we have to do to keep bioeconomy in the middle of the knowledge and to promote it and make a vision possible? Now, there are a few things that I would like to share my view on that. And the first thing, and that is the question of bioeconomy strategies. Bioeconomy strategy sounds a bit unspectacular, but actually it has proven in the last years to be one of the key factors to introduce bioeconomy into the normal economy, into politics, into society, and also to make a vision happen. Why is that so? Bioeconomy strategy is helping to identify societal needs, to look at the economic focus, to understand what bioeconomy means for the region, for the country, for the nation. And finally, it also gives political guidelines. And these political guidelines are so important to direct investments, to give a reliability to the world of bioeconomy, and it will give frameworks. And this will help on industry involvement. This will help on getting education into the right way. It will recognize the science and knowledge that you have in the country. It will recognize the bioresources and use them. And what we see, and that is very important, is it's not one bioeconomy fits all, but we need to have bioeconomies just very much focused on the point in the country. And so There are good, just to mention good examples why I say this. Of course, the first is Germany. We had a bioeconomy strategy many years ago, and it really helped us to shape bioeconomy for Germany and give it the right direction. Looking at what is good, working at what is not so working. Where are the challenges, where are the problems, but where also are the benefits, like jobs, for example, and employment. And recent examples of bioeconomy strategies, and they're important, include countries like Thailand and Costa Rica. And when you look at those, you see that what an impact and what importance that was. And I'm actually it's very great to see that also Eastern Africa has bioeconomy strategy. And my feeling is that's one point for the way forward. Second point on that, what is important for the way forward is that you realize that local initiatives and regional and national initiatives are just one part of what bioeconomy is. The second step will be to interlock it with international cooperation. And I'm aware that that is a very important step already in Eastern Africa, and just want to mention that it's an important feature for advancement. It involves transfer of knowledge. This goes in two directions in a cooperation. It involves also exchange of people, students, for example, to learn from each other. It includes funding of projects. I would especially would like to mention startup funding, because startup companies will probably be key to new developments. And it also supports youth initiatives, and we don't have to forget that it's the youth that brings the new innovations into the country and also important for the futures. Now, my last point is why it is important to have these national initiatives and also these corporations. I would like to campaign at this point also for a global involvement. And what we need at the fine end is global platforms and get global initiatives involved. Because we start with bioeconomy at the regional and the local point. But bioeconomy is not just a local thing. It's not a national thing. It's so much with trading, it's with biomass, it's bioresources, and this is an international part. So what we need is also international platforms to be active on. Eastern Africa has been a wonderful partner for the last global bioeconomy summits, and I think that is really helpful to increase visibility and cooperation. So we need platforms also in the future, and I'm happy to see that Eastern Africa is always been part of that, and hope to continue that. So let me just close with a sentence that I'm like to congratulate Eastern Africa on these achievements they have made in bioeconomy, science-based, knowledge-based bioeconomy involving local and international partners, seeing that the impact is already starting to be coming, and I'm hopeful and I'm very optimistic that this will build and bioeconomy, and also that you can realize with this on this way a vision of a sustainable bioeconomy, and that will become true. So thank you very much, and good luck also for the conference. And I'm very optimistic in seeing what bioeconomy is doing as a important achievement in the region. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Lang, for those remarks. We do take note of quite a few things that you said, and I would urge you to stay where you are, because we'll be engaging you as part of the panel that I have here in the next few minutes. All right, next, kindly, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to welcome up here the Ambassador of Sweden here in Nairobi, Her Excellency Caroline Vicini. I hope I got that right, Madam Ambassador. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everyone, and allow me to use my favorite Kenyan expression, all protocols observed. So we get all the professors and others who are here into that, whatever level you might have. It is a true pleasure for me to be here today, and I was very happy when I turned into the compound and I saw the Swedish flag flying among the East African flags here. It felt, for me, it was a feeling of inclusion. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why I think we support this initiative. Because actually our support goes back to quite a long time. Already in 2010, I believe, we started to support this initiative. And for you who are not familiar with Sweden, I don't blame you if you are not, because it's a pretty far away country from this perspective. It is a country in the northern part of Europe with a very different climate and a very different biodiversity and a very different economic situation than the one you find here. I personally marvel when I come here over the number of species, the number of trees, the number of plants that you find here, that we are not close to it because of the conditions that you find in the northern of Sweden, where the cultivation, I used to point that out to people when I talk about agriculture, our season for cultivating is probably 4 months, I would say. In the northern part of Sweden, even less. And that is what we have had to survive on during the years we were growing our economy. But we have something important in Sweden, and something that I think is important for you as well, and which is a part of why I think we are supporting this initiative. I suppose all of you are familiar with Carl von Linné. Early in 1707, he was born, early scientist, the man who invented, if I may say so, the classification of species. So the classification we all use today to describe the world, even here in Africa, comes from a man sitting in a cold and draughty University of Uppsala outside Stockholm. And he actually, for this scientific institute here, there is an important insect. The black soldier fly has been in the center of some of the big innovations coming out of here. And it was actually described by Carl von Linné in 1758, because we also have the black soldier fly. So he was one of the founder of the natural sciences in Sweden, and the interest that was created and the scientific work that was created in our country when it comes to natural sciences. On the other hand, we have culture of innovation. Many of the daily things that you use today come from Swedish innovators that then helped us to build the big industries we have today. If I say the match, the usual match that you use to light a fire, it's a Swedish innovation. If I say the zipper that you close your pants with, it's a Swedish innovation. If I say the adjustable wrench you use for when you're tweaking with your car or anything else mechanical, it's a Swedish innovation. Many of our, and that's just an example, so many of our industries are actually built upon innovations. And that is the link between science, innovation, and industry and economic development that I want to point at. And that is something that has been, I would say, nurtured through the years in Sweden. How we can get the innovations that individuals sit and figure out at their workplace or even at home, how we can get the science into the economy. And when I have had the privilege to meet many Nobel laureates. And I remember the first time as a young diplomat, I was attached to one of the laureates when he came to Sweden to receive his prize from His Majesty the King. And for me, being university educated, already working, etc., I remember when we were discussing how he had come to the work he was doing. And he said, you know, when you are a scientist, you do science for the science. He got premiated 20 years after he had done the theoretical foundation for the work that was premiated that year. And to me, I always thought scientists were out to solve a problem. And I think that is a bit the difference, the conditions that we find here in Africa compared to the conditions we find in European or American universities. We are often funded in a way that the science for the sake of science, for discovering the world around us, is possible. While I find often here the necessity to use science for a certain purpose, to find a solution to problems. And I don't think it's anything bad with that. I think it's rather an opportunity to bring the science closer to the other part, which is extremely important in this. And this is the support that we can get from the government and the government systems and from the private sector. And that is a part of what is called the triple helix, which is an extremely important part to get the discoveries that out to the people. And there I think we find other challenges here in this context that I have discovered when I travel around, when I meet people. I try to do that as much as possible, that there is a fragmented economy where it is kind of difficult to get out some of the products that the innovators and the entrepreneurs are trying to put on the market. I read as late as this weekend an article about somebody using the black soldier fly to produce animal feed. And he said one of the byproduct is actually a fertilizer that he still, after several years in this, give away. I don't know why he doesn't manage to sell it, but he has to give it away. And he does that because he wants it, of course, to come to use, but it just shows a weakness in the system. I've seen the same thing in Ngong town, where there is an entrepreneur that I know who is producing small biogas tunnels for households. He has there set up a big biogas installation where he takes all the waste from the market in Ngong and produces biogas. But he has nobody to sell it to. He can just use it for himself and the potential innovations or small businesses he can set up there. But of course, if there is such a fragmentation, if the county is not able to help him to pipe that gas to the schools that are 200 meters away for different reasons, how can you move these things forward? So I think there is a challenge out in the society as well. It's a challenge in the economy to really take up these, and these are I'm not talking about quite simple things, and I think you are working on much more advanced things, but to channel these scientific discoveries, the innovations, the entrepreneurship into the market, and thereby also create the jobs that we are talking about. Because that is, of course, the hope that the African industrialization that is very much talked about in Kenya. I cannot talk for the other countries present here, but that can be another type of industrialization than the one we have done, which have created so much damage to the world. I just hope that Africa can leapfrog into these sustainable type of industrialization instead of going all the way through the very damaging industrialization that we have done and that we have to in some way reverse. I know another person here who is working with many African universities in East Africa, and he says to me, I think, Caroline, in the future, we will learn from Africa. Because here you have the advantage, if you can call it. It's usually looked upon as a disadvantage that you don't have the big structures that we have locked ourselves into, and where we have poured in a lot of money, and where it's very difficult to reverse. Sweden has big production of trucks, buses, cars, for example. And it's a huge challenge for these big producers, global producers, to reverse into electrical vehicles. It's actually much easier, should be much easier, and is probably much easier for companies who are starting with a completely different technology and move into the market. Now there are financial problems, etc., in that, but to reverse something that is already set in a destructive sort of way for the climate and the environment into something more sustainable is much more difficult than to grow it from the sustainable solution as a start. So I think many of these experiences brought us to finance this initiative. I'm very happy to see that it's a long-term financing, because nothing of this happens in a 2-year project or something like that. And I hope we will keep to finance this initiative. And I hope that the African or East African economic actors, and there are many and quite successful actors in a country like Kenya at least, but I know also in many of the other countries around, that you are able to link up with them and able to convince them to finance this instead of financing the old-fashioned type of industry and economic development that so many are attracted to, unfortunately. So by that, I just wanted to greet you all, wish you a wonderful conference, a productive conference, a productive networking, because I think nobody can do this alone. We are definitely dependent on each other. And Sweden, through SIDA, through the Stockholm Environmental Institute and other sources, Uppsala University, where they still work in the old Linné spirit, and many other places, can continue to contribute to the growth of an environmental friendly and bioeconomy in East Africa. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Her Excellency, for those remarks, and obviously for the generosity of your country in supporting this pioneering work that holds such a great promise, not just for this region, but indeed the African continent. And I saw quite some surprises when you talked about the zipper. I think we all would have been in a lot of trouble if it were not for that invention. But so thank you very, very much. The next speaker that we're going to have now is in the room again, and this is none other than Dr. Christophe, the Honorable Christophe Zivamo. And he's going to be joining us in a short while. And I think that it might be a good time to engage. I think I've seen on a platform there is a question already for Dr. Lang, because George Onyango, that's his name, is asking you, Dr. Lang, if you could explain a little bit more some very specific strategies that you think the East African region should adopt with regard to bioeconomy.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I'm not actually. I don't think I can really give you very specific hints, because you know your economy best and your bioresources. But just from what I know about strategies and what the way of bioeconomy is in different countries, I think there are a few buzzwords, let's say, to have in your country. It's of course the rich bioresource that needs to be secured, that needs to be used, but in a sustainable way. It is of course your society, very many young people, and involving them, getting them in education, but also encouraging them to think about startups, just like we've seen in the video before. And then the third thing is to cooperate. Maybe these are the most important things. There are probably a lot of other cooperate internationally. There might be other things, and don't ever forget the industry, the private sector, because you need that after a startup phase in a company, then you need the scale up phase. And this scaling up is always probably to be relied on an industry. Does this answer the question a bit?
We'll find out in a moment because we'll have the panel discussion starting properly, I should say, in another few minutes. But at the moment, let me now welcome the Honorable Christophe Zivamo. He takes care of the East African region, so we understand he might be quite engaged in different things. But we now are lucky to have him back. And I would like to welcome you, sir, onto this stage. The Honorable
Let me first say that I was impressed by the ambassador. We are not used to have ambassadors. Instead of talking politics, they are talking science. And I have had some info around entomology and also the biogas she was talking about. I wish to say that I am here on behalf of the East African Community Secretary General, Dr. Peter Matuki, the son of this country, Kenya. And you know also Kenya is chairing the East African Community for the time being. So then I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of the Secretary General to thank Kenya and Kenyans for the warm hospitality you have been enjoying here in Nairobi. And I wish also to thank ICP and ISTECO and all of you have participated in organizing this important conference. Bioeconomy. It is new, but it is not new, because our East African community or Africans have been actually in whole history doing this, maybe in another way, but this was the common life of Africans. And it is even the same for more of them. For the time being, we are living, especially up country. The East African community, I hope you know, it is a regional economic community in an integration process, which is among the 8 regional economic community in Africa, which is said moving better in this integration agenda, better than the others. And it is a community of Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Republic of South Sudan, and the United Republic of Tanzania. These 6 partner states have agreed to work together, moving in this integration process, actually with 4 pillars of integration. The first one being the customs union, which is under implementation. The second being the common market, which is under implementation. The third being the monetary union, where few have been already done, but still the protocol have been signed, and our banks, central banks, are working together. And the last one being the political federation. And here our choice is not to go directly to political federation, but to go through a confederation. Now they are working on West African Community Confederation Constitution. As I stand here, I have heard Sweden has played a big role in supporting this program, and I wish to take this opportunity also to thank you, to thank your country through you for support for East Africa, whole East Africa, because it is not only in this program, but you are also implementing at regional level some programs with support from Sweden, SIDA, but especially under the health sector. So our community has, let's say, objectives which are to develop policies and programs aimed at widening and deepening cooperation among partner states in all fields, being political, economic, social, cultural, research and technology, defense, security, judicial affairs, and all this for the mutual benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, the concept of bioeconomy has progressively acquired recognition in recent years, and regional economic blocks like ours and countries are formulating strategies and or stating the intent to have a bioeconomy aimed at steering the developmental agenda. As a new frontier of a global economy, bioeconomy integrates in a systematic way natural resources, technologies, people, market, and policies to offer a realistic and solid platform for attaining sustainability. Bioeconomy is envisioned as a succeeding economic surge following fossil economy. It uses biological resources and transforms them into food, as I said, energy, and other products and services. It also concerns knowledge-based sustainable utilization of environmental beneficial clean technology, bio-based renewable natural resources, and non-material economic services, as well as effective recycling of regeneration of natural resources. It is known East Africa, and actually it is the whole Africa, has immense bioresources, and we agree that economic growth in the region could strategically tap into the advantages that come with investing in bioeconomy. Governments and policymakers are continually faced with the challenge of identifying ideal investment in science, technology, and bioscience innovations that can best link smaller holders to market, value chains, and agro-processing opportunities. Here, maybe I wish to emphasize again that the region in which we are, East Africa, I could say it is an agro-based region. No, agriculture plays a role of contributing at almost between 30 and 42% of the national GDPs. This same agriculture is one actually giving jobs to most of our population, more than 70%. It is also the one contributing to our industries, because what we know in East Africa, more than 70% of industries are agro-based industries or industries for agro agriculture inputs. And when you come to trade, we know also that almost 65% of what we are trading comes from agriculture commodities. So this agriculture plays a big role. And I think while discussing this new approach, benefit agriculture can have, or the contribution agriculture can give, will even be greater than ever before. Unfortunately, we are still importing food. It is a region which is also food insecure, but it should not be so. And this status of being food insecure actually push us to import food, where we see that in general, not only on food, we are paying almost 40 billion every year importing, and this of course contributes negatively when it comes to jobs creation, because by importing we are exporting in East Africa alone between 400,000 and 700,000 jobs which are exported year after year. For Eastern Africa, the need to ensure food security will continue to be high on the development agenda. Smallholder farmers will continue to be the major producers of food in Eastern Africa for the near, even longer future. It is not tomorrow that it will change, but we should do our best so that we can change it maybe the quickest possible. Connecting these smallholders to market, value chains, and agro-processing opportunities is increasingly seen as one of the most important tools in elevating agricultural productivity and improving rural livelihoods in our region. At the same time, the rapid advances of biosciences, including biotechnology and genetic engineering, are changing the way agricultural and forestry resources are developed and used. Modern biosciences are an increasingly powerful tool for improving agricultural productivity and agro-processing and value chains in our region. Adopting the rapid advances in modern biosciences to meet local needs and opportunities is also of crucial importance for the region's agricultural sector. I think we should not doubt about the importance of bioeconomy in improving these processes, and we think we have to focus on how to promote how. We are not doubting on its importance, but how to adopt it efficiently. This is where we have challenges. And I think it is now the time for policymakers and stakeholders in our region to get ready, as others have done around the world, to translate the potential of modern biosciences into products and technologies adapted to local demand. This involves long-term planning and effective investment in human capacity, science and technology infrastructure, entrepreneurial capacity, and innovation structures. This, in turn, requires leadership, government commitment, regional collaboration, so building strong partnership, continued donor investment, public and private sector investment, and last but not least, long-term vision and strategies. I wish also here again to highlight the fact that in our integration agenda at the East African community level, the treaty establishing this community pushes our partner state to cooperate, but we are requested to leave nobody behind. And Article 127, 28, and 29 of the same treaty for the establishment of the East African Community request us to bring on board private sector and civil society in that process. And here, thinking about bioeconomy, it's important you understand that we wish actually all stakeholders to move together and to be together, because it is only when they are together that you can expect sustainable achievement. And this ownership by all stakeholders is the key. You are aware, actually, the East African community has already this bioeconomy strategy, and we thank ISTECO, which has been actually on the leading table. And this bioeconomy strategy, once implemented, will enhance for sustainable production and exploitation of biological resources and knowledge to support the following: first, food and industrial feedstock production; second, for diversified industrial sector producing a range of bio-based products, including high-quality foods, feed, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, textile, construction products, among others; and third, protection of ecosystem services and mitigation of climate change. And here, when it comes to climate change, we have already started facing the negative impact of climate change. We face year after year issues around drought, issues around flooding, landscape degradation, landslides. All these are happening, and it is not coming because it should be coming. It is becoming because we have actually destroyed, in a way, our environment, not only in Africa, but in the whole world. So the strategy we have, this bioeconomy strategy, will transform the economy that will put the innovation in bio-based products, processes, and business models at the center, and the bio-based circular economy as organizing framework. It is the deep conviction of the East African Community Partner State that the East African Regional Strategy shall contribute to the East Africa we want through an effective and efficient exploitation of bio-based materials, products, processes, and businesses models in our community to drive sustainable development of our region.
You finalize so that we can have a further conversation here. Just because of time, I hate to interrupt you. Yeah, thank you.
Say what you wish to hear. In conclusion, with East Africa Regional Bioeconomy Observatory portal, which we have launched in the last month, this one being in place will help actually to gather data for policymakers to monitor the development of bioeconomy and assess its impact. And this will be provided, especially as we know that the evaluation which was done in 2019 at the end on the CADAP being the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, which does normally a biannual review, has shown that the biggest challenge we are facing in East Africa and in Africa in general is data and statistics. So this portal will help actually in that area, and will help our decision makers to do the right way. And moving forward, I think we shall be succeeding. I conclude by saying that supporting initiatives that effectively link public research organizations, universities, and market actors will improve the chances of East African farmers, agribusinesses, and agro-processors benefiting from the rapidly advancing field of bioscience. Business incubators linking public research organizations, universities, and market actors are also key to improving the chances of bioscience innovation benefits, reaching smallholders, farmers, resource-poor communities, and a broader set of market actors. So I emphasize the need actually of awareness creation to link what we have in science, in research, to the end users so that you can benefit from this. Awareness creation, advocacy, these are very, very key. So finally, East African community would like to thank Bio-Innovate Africa program based at ICP and the participants for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this important conference. I thank you and wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, Sandra. If you could join me up here as well. If you could join me up here as well for a brief discussion. I have the worst job in the room, which involves interrupting people. But we'll have a very quick conversation here. So I think now I have everybody I need here, and thank you very much for being patient as we went through that session, because that was really going to lay the foundation of the brief conversation that we'll have here. I can see Professor Christine is still with us, and that is lovely. But I'll start with you, Dr. Ekesi. You have been quiet for some time, so I imagine you've caught your breath a little bit. And you talked initially of scientists now being heard. I wonder how much of the research you're doing here, you talked about the insects, and the prospects there for food, feed, and all sorts of things. How much are you being listened to in terms of the research that you're putting out? What's the uptake?
Thank you very much, Joe. That's a very, very important question, because there is usually the tendency of scientists to work in silos or in isolation. But this program, and this particular one, is quite unique because it brings together various actors. So it's not just scientists doing their super science in the lab, but at the moment, we are in the position to talk to policymakers. So there is a very, very strong element of policy integration into what we're doing, including the researchers, as well as the entrepreneurs and the innovators. In the past, we do these very fantastic science and they end up in the shelf. But how much of this science, or these very important science, is being translated into products to help the end users at the end of the day? We cannot do this if there is no partnership that encompasses the policymakers that are supposed to listen to us, that will ensure that the technologies, the tools that are produced by the scientists are eventually adopted. So it's a very unique program, and with this program, we are seeing an extension to others where we are able to conveniently bring policymakers on board to listen to us and to ensure that these innovations are taken to the end users at the end of the day.
The Honorable Zivamo, that really comes down to the individual countries. I mean, I think 2019, the region embarked on developing a bioeconomy strategy for East Africa. And this is 2 years later. How much of that has gone into what the individual countries then develop as their own policies in East Africa?
Thank you. Let me say that, as I said at the beginning, bioeconomy as a term is not very new. What you are trying actually is to improve and to make it better known for its efficiency. Otherwise, in all our different partner states, we are or have been doing similar in a way. But I wish to say that our partner state has already developed other related policies and strategies. When you talk about food security, most of the elements which are put on the table to be developed have similarity of what you are supposed to be doing in this framework of bioeconomy. When you promote kind of like traditional medicine in our countries, and you have policies and strategies around that, it is in a kind implementing this same strategy. You will be seeing that we have different policies which are at national level and even at industrial policy, where you are promoting local industries using raw material coming from our different partner states. These are actually elements which are in a way supporting this bioeconomy without speaking about it, but which are needed actually as pillar of development of this new approach to ensure sustainability. So the element of sustaining our environment, you know, we have here and there policies on environment. We are already implementing it. We are talking about clean industries, and this is policies which are adopted at different partner state level. So doing this in a way contribute in the promotion of this new thinking. And I would wish to say that we are already on board. What we need is actually to make it clearly known so that we avoid what is negative and keep on pushing what is positive under this framework.
Our discussion here is basically continent-wide right now. You know, even the session we are in is about realizing a bioeconomy vision for Africa. And we know that Africa is has such a rich endowment in terms of biological resources. Do you feel, as someone who sits almost with a bird's eye view, that Africa has taken its rightful place in the kind of global conversations that are going on right now about what role bioeconomy could play in dealing with some of the difficult problems that the world is facing?
Yeah, let me answer in two ways. On the one hand, yes, I see that there is still more place for Eastern Africa, and could be. But on the other hand, you can be assured that Eastern Africa has already a position, at least, for example, with the IAC that I co-chair, and my co-chair, one of my co-chairs is Dr. Ekuru. So that is really a good place for placing East African interests and also ideas coming from the country into the international sphere. I also like to mention at this point that Eastern Africa has been an excellent partner, an official partner for the last Global Bioeconomy Summit in 2020. And this enabled Eastern Africa not only to share workshops coming from the interest of the Eastern African society and science and bioresource background, but also to have high-level political leaders coming to such a world forum. And I think this is the right way forward. And so my answer would be two-part. You're very good already in the international sphere, but to increase visibility, share your experience, it would be great to have even more people coming to those international fora and platforms.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Ekesi, we'll take a few questions here in a moment, but one of the biggest conversations, obviously right now, timely even, is the whole question of climate change and how different regions of the world begin on low carbon pathways to really just make sure that there's a different trajectory. I think the ambassador talks a lot about leapfrogging. To what extent do we have a chance with this whole bioeconomy question to leapfrog in that manner? Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry. Yeah, we do clearly have a chance to leapfrog because I really like the analogy of the ambassador with regard to the not learning from our region, because they have been largely based on large industrial enterprises, if I may use the word. But if you look at our systems, it's rather smaller with minimal contribution to greenhouse gas emission. And the technologies that we are looking at here in our systems are usually based on smaller startups that are picking up new innovations that are clearly, to a large extent, closely linked to decarbonization or net zero. As I've gave the example of the use of black soldier fly, which is a clear contribution to circular economy, for instance. And I believe that there are several examples within that context on the continent. So we do have a clear example to show the world that it can be done properly in our transition to net zero.
All right. Sadly, our time has come to an end. I mean, we lost a bit of time at the beginning, but we have to catch up because we need to take a short break right after this so that we can get to the next session. But really, mine is just to thank my panelists here, Dr. Sunday Kesey from here at ICIPE, the Honorable Christophe Zivamo, who also joined us here, the ambassador, thank you very much. And of course, Professor Lang, who's joining us from a distant land, but feeling absolutely present here. On behalf of all of them, my name is Joe Agale. I do enjoy the rest of this wonderful conference.